Welcome to the Wise Power Retreat, where I'm having a series of intimate conversations with people about their menopause experience and what it revealed and liberated in them. This series of conversations is about the power, authority, and purpose that menopause awakens in us, and what's possible individually and collectively when this rite of passage is supported and dignified. And today I am delighted to be with Susanna Darling Khan. She is the co-director of the School of Movement Medicine alongside her husband Yakov Darling Khan. And they are co-authors of Movement Medicine, which is published by Hay House. And Susanna is a teacher, dancer and music maker and a trainee pony whisperer. There's no end to your talents, Susanna. And Susanna is passionate about sharing the simple and life-transforming skills of embodied communication. As she says, deep listening is the new hug. And of course, Susanna, Shani has a long connection with you and has trained as a movement medicine facilitator with you. So we feel we have quite a connection with you one way or another over time. And we had that wonderful interview 3 years ago, it was now, with you and Yakov together. And I would love to start with really where you position yourself with menopause now, because I think at that time you were in it, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I just want to say those words of your introduction was such honey in my being. Talking about the rite of passage, and the particular sentence that stays with me is about the liberation of purpose and authority and something else you said, maybe creativity, but something like that. But when menopause is supported and dignified.
Yes.
And that really touches my heart. And that's what I feel I am privileged to have had the experience of over the last years of my menopausal journey, is to be really supported and to have this rite of passage acknowledged, honoured and dignified by by my husband, who's been alongside me and holding a space for me in a way that I recognise is a real privilege, and unfortunately I think is quite unusual just to have that stability and capacity alongside one. But yes, in terms of your question, 3 years ago, it's interesting, isn't it? That was just before the pandemic, wasn't it?
It was.
It was that autumn. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Woof, woof, woof. Well, yeah, I would say at that point I was probably just going into the epicenter of it. And now I'm coming out. I'm still in it, but I'm still having hot moments. But there's been an appreciable shift, which I'm really happy to talk about. It's such an adventure. It's such an unknown journey for me, whatever the maps are. And I really want to congratulate you on your book, Wise Power. And
thank you.
I'm so looking forward to reading it and receiving from all the other people that have contributed to it. Like what this is, and what this can bring in the way that you were talking about. But yeah, I call it my menopausal bend. And
that went in the book, Susanna.
Okay. Do you want me to describe that again for people that haven't read that?
Yeah. So I'd love to hear that. And also, I just really want to, before we move on to that, I was so moved when you spoke about how your husband supported you, because in a way that it is such a privilege to have had that. And we want to so change the conversation that is utterly respected, that everyone gets it, and that people step up in whatever way, shape or form their relationships are with us, so we can have that spacious holding And creates the alchemical vessel in which the magic of menopause can get to work in the most kind of integrated way. And in a way, it sounds like you've had quite, I want to say, an integrated experience of menopause because of that support. But yes, tell us about the bend. I so love the image that you used.
Well, it gives a very graphic way of answering a question about where I feel I am now in
Yes.
that. But yeah, God, I just want to tell you that as how my body responded to your words about wanting to invite everyone to step up, to support our menopausal women, to have that, and then the word spaciousness. As you said that, my lower back kind of widened and I felt so much more ground and space in my energetic being. And I just really want to thank you and everybody else who is bringing menopause from the kind of cloaked place it's been in for whatever reasons we don't need to go into right now, but to bring it into a dignified place in human society and our culture. And do you know that there's only 2 other mammals that experience menopause? I'm sure you do know this.
Well, no. Yes, go on.
But they're 2 kinds of whales.
Yes.
Yeah. And not even elephants, because they thought elephants might, but they don't. And then the things that, I can't remember the names of those whales. Do you know?
No, I know, I can't.
They're 2 quite unusual kinds of whales. And what those whales have that is in common with human society is that they have very elaborate or sophisticated and long-term culture, family systems, and real kind of tribal knowledge.
Yes.
And that they think that the function of having females in one's tribe, in one's society, who go on living after we can be reproductive, is that it's about passing on information, knowledge, and culture to the younger generations. And that's what's functional, evolutionarily, about menopause. And if that is so, then we all, and in all the terms that you've been talking about, we all have so much to gain as a culture, as a society, as a world, from giving menopausal women that support and that spaciousness, so that we can become the wisdom keepers, or the
evolutionaries.
Yeah, and the wise elders to support the youngers coming up to be the best they can be.
Exactly.
And in all of our interests, therefore, to really find out what do menopausal women need and how do we give it to them. And then we're all going to flourish. That's what I was getting to. Anyway, the menopausal bend, my menopausal bend. So this is an image that came to me as I was coming into this experience. It was as if I'd been driving a very good, fast sports car, and it's red for some reason, along an alpine road. And it's a good road, but it's on the flanks of steep mountains. And I'm going fast because the road is clear and it's a good road and it's a good car and I'm a good driver and I am going and I'm enjoying the speed and the power of that. And then I realised that up ahead of me there is a hairpin bend, and it is really precipitous, and there's forests and trees, and it's such a steep bend. I've got to slow down really, really fast in order not to go off and kill myself. But I've also got to slow down not too fast, otherwise I'm going to lose control and kill myself. And that's strong language, but that's how it felt. I've got to slow down really, really quickly, but safely. And at that point, pre-pandemic, I was zooming around the world offering movement medicine workshops. I was living so fast. And it was so important, and I loved it, but I knew I needed to slow down. And then the menopause was just like that. I've got to slow down. How do I slow down in a way that doesn't just dislodge everything that I've created here in terms of the strong and beautiful life and purpose that Jakob and I have built together with the School of Movement Medicine. And then the pandemic came. So I was already slowing down, But the pandemic was like a gift for me from the gods. And I know that so many people have suffered so intensely. And it certainly, for me as well, was not easy because our income stream just stopped. Boom, finish. We just had to reinvent our work online and simplify everything. But nevertheless, we were at home. And there was this, so it was like in the apex of that heavy end, somehow there was a lesion, not collision, but alignment of what was happening and what was needed. And though we were working harder than we've ever worked in our lives for the last 3 years, we've been at home and we've been on our land, and I've been able to just go, and through that process, and who knows what would have happened if there hadn't been the pandemic. I'm sure I would have found another way. I would have needed to slow down and have more space. It's really the tempo. That's been the key thing for me. I've needed to slow everything down. I've become very interested in the vagus, the polyvagal nerve, and all the parasympathetic nervous system stuff, and embodied listening. That really came out of the pandemic and the menopause, that thing together. And I felt like the angels knocking on my head, my guides really. You have got to create something about embodied listening, because it is so needed, particularly with Zoom. Like, how do we listen to each other with our full beings and our full bodies? Anyway, so as you can tell, my tempo's gone up again. I'm coming out of that corner. I feel like I'm just revving up into the next part of my life, and the vista is very different, and I really don't want to lose what I've learned. Yeah.
This vista that you speak of, I'd love you to can you fill that image out for me more? What's the vista like? What do you know? Yes, can you say more about the vista that you have now coming out of menopause?
So interesting. So I haven't actually. This is the first time I've said that. So I'm investigating. I've had that image of the bend and where I am relative to it, kind of revving up again. So I'm just seeing this. It's not that steep, precipitous alpine thing. The cars changed colour. It's now deep green. It's a much softer landscape. It's like a wide valley. It's more like where we actually live. Rolling hills, like more like English. It's interesting. It's like coming home to England, coming home to where I live, literally coming home to this land, and maybe I'm not even in the car. It's like I'm walking, or I'm walking with a horse, or I'm driving slowly. It's like there's a lot of energy come, and also sexual energy come back. That's a whole nother story, but that's very exciting.
We'll come to that.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But it's the thing that I do not want to lose is the slowness, and actually seeing that image is very corroborative of that for myself. Like, yes, it's like there is a lot of energy in it, and fertility.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and creativity, but it's more a sense of a meandering path rather than a gotta get there now sort of thing. There's a curiosity, there's a sense of multiple ways, multiple paths, people wandering together, having these kind of conversations, sharing. And it's all about sharing what I've learned. I mean, it's like I feel this. Oh yes, this is connecting to a vision I had a few years ago. It's like yes, I see the landscape, and in the center of the landscape there's a river, and there's lots of streams leading to that river, and the river leads to the sea, and the sea is my death. That's when my river joins the great sea, And in the time between now and dying, that's something that's become so clear as part of the menopause, is really recognizing the teacher and the reality of death. That is, I'm praying and assuming and hoping and intending is not imminent, but there's a cognition of that on a different level. Partly, of course, because we have my father living with us, who's 89 and almost certainly in his last years, if not months, and that's also bringing that very into focus. But so that in the time, in the vision between now and my river joining the sea, my purpose is to really to share what I've learned, to make sure that the new generations, the next generations, have it in a form that they can use, and rather than a sense of fluorescence of the new and exquisitely sophisticated techniques of movement medicine and everything that we've elaborated at such fine-tuned finesse of human consciousness and evolution.
Wow. Yeah.
Now it's about unpacking that into simple, doable, accessible steps for people. Rather than going on elaborating, it's more about making it digestible and sharing it forwards and wider. That feels like the work, and it's a very different focus from this creation to the more about the dissemination and the sharing.
Yeah.
Which fits with the whales.
It fits with the whales. Fits with the whales. I'm just really taking in you the sort of atmosphere of your speaking and sort of living into that atmosphere with you, and how the tone and texture of your life, the whole quality of it has shifted. And I can feel something has this, so there's something softer and something also more expanded, I feel. Yeah, I can sort of feel a stillness in there, an incredible presence. And you speak of coming home to your literal land. And, you know, we speak of menopause as just the heart of what menopause is about bringing us utterly home to ourselves in a way that we can never abandon again. And then I know what it is. I'm feeling a peacefulness in your image. And I think of that home that we find in ourselves at menopause breeds peace in ourselves. There's something that can let go and relax. And this kind of peace in the system. And I love what you were saying about the vagus nerve. And I always jokingly say, I've said this before, that my nervous system is God now. That is completely bow down to my nervous system and care for that, because I hate feeling shit and I don't want to compromise myself. And that's my absolute barometer now, for goodness.
Absolutely. I love that. That's so simple. That's so accessible, and that's so real. And I'm sure everyone can relate to that. I don't want to feel like shit, and I'm not willing to compromise. And that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So,
thank you. Thank you for that reflection. And I think the word peace is correct. And it's like that actually peace is not, there's nothing worth sacrificing that for.
No.
And that
no. Is wow. No, there's nothing worth sacrificing for that. That is just everything, isn't it? Yeah.
And a lot of that is, I mean, I'm just obviously so aware as we're talking about peace, about the war in Ukraine and the horror of that. And we have some Ukrainians who've come to live with us in this time, and they're just actually, yesterday they moved to their where they're living to be closer to the work that they found. But we've been so connected to that conflict through this very, very beautiful family that we were connected with and came to live with us. And that, just so, real. What does it mean to live in peace in a world that is at war, where there is such a level of war and conflict and horror going on, not in denial, but also not knowing that the peace that we can bring is the peace that we can bring, and it comes from within. And I'm really feeling something shifting as we're saying this. Like this is a prayer, that actually that commitment to one's own inner peace, and to whatever that takes, whether it's more exercise and less doing and more slowing down and more listening, and whatever it is that's one's elixir that one is then able to offer out in ways that ripple. And who knows what is a big ripple and what's a small ripple and what matters and what makes a difference. But I know that everything makes a difference. And that's the foundation really of my life. Everything matters. Everything makes a difference. Every drop colours the ocean. And and here we are.
Everything we do makes a difference. And this theme of peace, the discipline of when you were speaking about that, and I felt it very strongly what you were saying, and it did feel like a prayer in the moment. One of the images or words I use to speak about the power that we inhabit post-menopause, and it comes with time post-menopause, but menopause sets us up for this, which is we speak of being a sentinel for the world, keeping watch for the world. And I think of us as world workers. Absolutely, post-menopause, your business is the world in the fullest sense on all levels. And who we are in the moment, the responsibility of holding who we are in the moment and recognizing that that is a contribution to the world, is the discipline. Well, it's a discipline that I hold, and I believe it's the discipline. It's what menopause can prepare us for. Holding that level of discipline, of presence for the world, and it serves the world in the way you beautifully described when you spoke of peace. Yeah. We've sort of stumbled onto this turf of, I speak of menopause as sort of freedom country, but that freedom is, it's a responsibility. And I really hear, as you speak, your deep sense of care and presence to step up to serve life, community, the world, and that really demands something, requires something of us.
I think that I'm aware of the danger of that being a kind of. It might be easy to perceive that as that everyone should have that orientation.
Right.
I don't think everyone does, and I think that's okay. That's for some people, or maybe they do, but it's expressed in a very different way.
Exactly.
That some people, older women and men, do an incredible job gardening and growing flowers in their front porch, and that's in effect that's their contribution in the world, and one cannot judge one is more or less important than the other, or looking after your grandchildren or the child next door, or there's so many ways. And I think the attunement that we each have is very, very personal. And as you say, freedom is a responsibility, and the more responsible I am, the more free I am, in a sense. And there's also a sense of choiceless choice about it.
There is.
In another sense, the more aligned I am, the less choice there is, because my inner voice is so clear about what I'm meant to be doing or not doing now. And it can be quite, as you said, it's a discipline. It can be quite like, oh my God, do I really have to give up that? Do I really have to say no to that? Yes. Okay. And that process of embodied listening, ultimately meaning listening to oneself first and foremost, which the menopause is a very fierce taskmaster of, I think. And I think that's the level where I'll speak for myself, I certainly need, because my drive to be fast, vigorous, I have a natural speediness that is, exciting. And I loved adrenaline, the buzz of jumping, not jumping out of airplanes, because I never did that, but the kind of, those slides where, children's kind of big adventure where you go, woo, and you let go. I loved that. And screaming with the kind of fear, excitement, glee of, and then getting into a place of needing something very different. I needed quite a fierce from my body to really hear that's not okay anymore. And menopause is fierce, isn't it? I don't think I've had anything like the fierce ride that some women have, but it's been pretty intense in terms of waking up in the night with the heat, and the heat. God, I never thought I'd relish cold like I have come to relish the cold. Like what? The proportion of women in any building that are all around the open window and taking their clothes off, and oh God.
Yes, the fierceness of menopause.
Yeah.
Actually, well, I want to just briefly acknowledge what you said just before that. And then I want to get on to, what menopause demanded of you, in a sense, to get to the kind of gold of where you are now. But just to really reiterate this thing about our lives post-menopause, how singular there are a gazillion million ways of serving the world, from the infinitesimally invisible and small to the very grand big acts, and no one act is grander or bigger than another in terms of impact. Everything is required, and it is not even it's not even knowing quite what it is you're doing, except you just have to do something. Or it's the energy, it's the feeling within you that is important. There's a kind of movement of within, of that you feel you want to do something, and it's this inner directedness. And I loved the way you spoke about the choiceless choice, because the more you came into yourself, the more it was sort of non-negotiable around what you had to do. And so how that happens for each person is so singular and so unique. And then what then becomes the expression from that is so singular and so unique. And the diversity of who we are is just everything. It's just everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. So coming back to really the process of menopause itself, and I suppose what it demanded of you, what you had to sort of face or understand in yourself or see, or
I've got it. So it comes back to this theme that we were with at the beginning of support, dignity and spaciousness, dignifying spaciousness. And so what I needed to do was slow down massively, which meant doing less work, which meant really surrendering and supporting my husband to do more work, for him to really come out with his books, and for me to support him to come out with his brilliant books, Jagger and the Body, Butterfly and the Heart, and Shaman, in the world, and really spearhead bringing our work to the next level, and relax in being supported by his, to be really, really, kind of basic about it, his financial power, and his strengths. And what I had to face in myself with that was such a lot of absolute fear about that. Yeah. I was so terrified of losing my significance through being supported by my man, and I was kind of frightened that I would dwindle into some little nothing and lose it's not even status, though that is relevant. Significance is the right word, I think.
Significance, yes.
If I wasn't kind of keeping up, if I wasn't like cutting it on the same level as he was in the world. And so I had to face how my identity had got, or my self-value had really got wrapped up with success work, making an overt offering, which is why the thing about peace, and also, whether you grow a flower or you have a relationship with a wild pony that's compassionate and mutually honouring and respectful, like, who knows which is the thing that's going to change the world, and everything changes the world. So because what I grew up with as a known purpose for myself was to play my role in healing the world and healing the suffering that I witnessed in the world from being tiny. I had this compelling. This is why it's not just about status. Jakob and I've been talking about this, and I've been trying to understand, what is it? What does significance mean as opposed to status? It's that sense of accomplishing my purpose, and I thought that meant, or I assumed that meant, kind of heroic acts of transformative whatever. Interestingly, I've got a red jacket that when I bought it, I said to the person that I was buying it with, I'm going to wear this when I teach movement medicine in Parliament, because what kind of decisions might be, and what kind of cooperation might be possible if they dance together before debating. And I was looking at it the other day and going, maybe I'll never do that, and maybe I will. I don't know. It's like, but that was the kind of like, okay, I'm going to change the world, and this is how I'm going to do it. And so I had to let that go. I'm still letting that go. I can feel it. The grief about that. Because I'd love to wave a magic wand.
I know. I often feel like that when I'm talking with people about menopause. I think, I wish I could bring out a magic wand for you right now. But this is the initiation at work. What you're doing, this is the initiation that awakens the power that's possible post-menopause. Yeah. It's radical.
It's radical acceptance, surrender, honouring the breath of life, the base, the gentleness. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is the power of gentleness, and the power of listening, and the power of slowing conversations down. I was mediating a conversation a couple of days ago between two people who are very, very dear to me, and they're both skilled communicators, but all that was needed to help them really break through to open-heartedness was to slow it down and to appreciate each step that each one had made and support each person. And then their hearts just went boom. It was so beautiful. And the medicine was so simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy to.
It requires a huge discipline again.
Yeah.
It requires, that slowing down is one of the most powerful things we can do at menopause, to be able to come through it in a way that is liberating for us. Slowing down is radical. And the thing about slowing down, which you will really know, is that the moment you start slowing down, you start feeling more.
Mm.
And in a way, you become more vulnerable, actually, to the complexity and fullness of everything.
Mm. Mm. And I think that harvest of the integration of that, and then through that attunement, being able to support other people to slow down.
Yeah.
In their interactions with each other.
Yeah.
Is that, and then how the heart's open, this, and the such an easy, like, low-hanging fruit to be had there. This is my hope, actually, if for what I'm now feeling that is my most important offering in the world is the embodied listening work. And it's because it's so radically simple, and because the goodness that can start feeding back into one's own system and one's relationships so easily by making these simple changes that are simple, but they're not easy, as you say, to remember, particularly when we're getting into conflict or getting excited, getting analysed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But the rewards are massive.
The rewards are extraordinary. This thing of slowing down and coming into presence.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
really being able to receive and hear what's happening. And how our hearts open in that act. I can really feel, Susanna, I can really feel how you're inhabiting this new space. I can feel the potency in what you're saying, just in the way that you're speaking. But it's so alive and soft and loving and powerful. That slowness is so powerful.
That's so beautiful for me to hear, Alexandra, because right now I don't feel particularly slow. So it's really nice to hear that energy is being transmitted, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my belly and in my
I can feel it.
Yeah, and
Well, I can feel the discipline in you, the commitment you have made to embodied listening, to presence, to being here. I can feel that commitment in you, and it's sort of entraining me, if you like, in the moment as well.
Oh, bless you. Well, I feel that very mutually, actually. I feel your discipline and your capacity to word these things is so beautiful. I'm really
Thank you.
Of honey, and thank you. And I think that discipline, as you say, it's a good word, and I like reclaiming that word because it's got such a bad rap, but actually it's the really key to so much. And how menopause has made that non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That like there is nothing. Yes, it's menopause, and at the same time, twinned with movement medicine for me, and twinned with growing. Growing like every week, a new discovery about this, about the power of interoception, which means feeling the sensory feeling of our bodies from the inside.
Yes.
And that awakeness to physical sensory presence, and how that informs our nervous system. And grounds our nervous system.
Yes.
Yeah. And how healing it is in terms of one's own presence, one's own self-knowledge, self-acceptance, and capacity to be with others, and capacity, my capacity, yours, to be in the world. And so it's something, I feel like there's been this, for myself, this magical coming together of what the pandemic has made me do: stop traveling.
Yeah.
And just before the pandemic, I was having these messages like, it's time to stay home and connect globally. Stay, not just stay local, but stay home and connect globally. And, thank God for the internet and this magic that we can, you're home, I'm home, Shani's home, and we're connecting. And this is going to go, bless you, wherever you are, whoever you are who's listening to this. And I hope you can feel your body now. In this moment. And
I just really want to acknowledge the importance of what you've spoken there, because movement medicine has awakened this extraordinary aliveness to your being, as I understand it. You use this word interior. I can't say it now.
Interoception.
Interoception, yes.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, the capacity to feel one's being from the inside. Yes. And you have been, you arrived in menopause with this kind of embodied intelligence, really. And so menopause had such good soil to land in with you, because we talk about being prepared for menopause. And of course, we talk about menstrual cycle awareness prepares us. It does. It evolves us into it. But any kind of inner work that, anything that is bringing you into yourself and making peace with yourself and getting to know yourself more and more can really set you up well to meet menopause.
The word I want to add there is body.
Body, yes.
Knowing yourself from the inside of your body, your physical, kinesthetic, sensual and sensory experience of your body, which is one of the common things between movement medicine and your menstrual cycle work, is that they're both about the cycle of energy as experienced through our bodies.
That's right.
And that's a radical act in our world. That's so, talk about body consciousness or body conscious, but it's 99.9% of it is about how the body looks from the outside, not from living from within it and letting that inform how we live. And so, yeah.
Thank you for that clarity. Yes, that is so. It's so core. It's so foundational what you articulate there. Yes. I'm conscious of the time. We're okay. We're still doing good. And in a way, perhaps this is the moment to come to this. But I think people would kill me if I did not follow up with you on what you mentioned at the beginning, about how your experience of sex, your sexual energy, and so since we're talking about the body,
right.
Body sensations, I'd love to segue to that, because this is such a big issue in menopause. And we spoke about this in our previous conversation when Yakov was there, and it was wonderful. That was so profound. That honestly, that conversation was so valuable. I would just love to hear more about what you're experiencing now. Well, if you're up for it.
Sure. You'll have to tell me. I suppose you can edit it out if it gets too graphic or whatever.
Yes, but I think we can
I
take.
mean, yeah. Yes, and at the same time, just aware of our privacy and what's
Of
appropriate.
course, yes.
But basically, yeah, coming out of that menopausal bend where I experienced a real quietening of my own libido, my own horniness, and it was not that it was gone, but that I was so much more. It was a quieter place sexually, and we went on making love. We went on, and it changed. Yakov used to hold me. Um, that became a real ritual. How do you want to be held today, darling? Before we entered more sexual place, and that was really important. And there was a lot of emotion often released in those holdings, and that was one side of it. And then there was the the boxing and the like really being him being able to not meet as in fight me, but meet as in accept my anger, my fierceness when it needed to come through. And we have our boxing gloves in our house, which we still use sometimes, but that's got less. So I think that was very important in terms of maintaining the fire of sexual, like the fire and how anger and fire are connected. And if anger is not, from the woman's point of view, if anger is not owned and accepted as in the currency of the relationship, if she has to shut down that anger or thinks she has to shut it down and hold it down inside herself, then I think it must be very, very hard to maintain a sexual relationship during menopause.
Mm.
And what we found was that good lube was really helpful, like a game changer. And not to be able to just kind of jump over foreplay. That's not where it's at, but just physiologically the body could do with some help at that time. And we actually experienced a lot of new vistas in our lovemaking to do with much longer, and that how I'd always been such a horny woman, such a fierce, sexy, strong sexual energy, and so fast. And I'd be so fast to peak and like just the mellowness and getting to know a completely different sine waves of valleys and peaks, and really, really enjoying much longer in the valleys and still quiet, communicative play between us, play of the energy between us. So it became more energetic meeting as well as the anatomical meeting. And then now, in the last few months, I've been quite delighted to feel like a kind of almost adolescent, coming back, like seeing my man walking around the corner and going, woo, yeah, and how lovely that is, and that the thing, all that we learned and experienced in menopause is still there. And we've recently been on holiday, just got back the day before yesterday. So we've had, for the first time for 3 years, actual real break and just time with each other. And there's new things opening sexually, which are so like the honey of honeys. There's something that I don't think I can really talk about yet because I just don't know how to word it. I've never heard, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talking about how it can go on and on and on, getting better. That's not true. I've heard one couple talking about that, but it's very rare, and I feel like we're moving into ground where, well, where is this going to lead us? Because it's so golden, and it's such like a deep listening and a deep inner knowing of each other and a deep communion where there really isn't a separate. There is a separation. It's like this play of the union and the two, the one and the two, the one and the two, the one and the two, and it's very, very delightful, nourishing, potent, powerful, empowering for both of us. And yeah, a long time ago, I was in the Amazon, and I was praying in a ceremony with an ancient, beautiful Achua shaman. This is with the Pachamama Alliance, called Hin Pickett, who was like, I called him the Oxford Dawn of shamans. You could feel his lineage and this real scholastic in wisdom. I mean, just like, God, his frame of reference, what that guy had in his consciousness was just extraordinary, and how he transmitted it. And I was asking, what do I need to empower my service and offering in the world? And the answer I got in that ceremony was really startling. And it was, the key thing for your to empower your offering in the world, and your husband's, and the two of you together, is to nourish and keep cleaning and nourishing the source, the spring, the fountain of energy between you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like, it turned everything on its head. It's like, you want to go out, come into that. And it was so specific: clean and nourish the fountain of your relationship, of this, like, I saw it like a fountain of light, of water stroke light. And that's the Holy of Holies, that place. And I feel like I'm beginning to understand more of what that means in terms of our sexual relationship, and in terms of the profound sexual, spiritual, physical and energetic communion of our beings. And I'm so privileged to be with that man, and he's so privileged to be with me, and there's something about how our souls are weaving together, and the discipline that it has taken and is going on taking to be humble enough to learn our lessons with each other. And we still make such a mess so easily. We still so easily fuck up, excuse me, and fall down and blame each other and go into, talk about aggression or unconscious aggression, or microaggression, all that stuff. Like, God, I'm a master at it. I'm so good at it. I'm so bad at it. I'm so bad at being aware of what I'm doing and how, and vice versa. It's like, oh, Jesus, we can make a world war in 0.3 microseconds.
Exactly.
And here we are talking about peace. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, please, oh my God, like, really? And at the same time, we're getting better and better at undoing it and realizing what the medicine is. And it comes back, guess what, to interoception. It's like, drop the story. What's going on in your body?
Drop the story. Exactly. Oh my God, I feel like you've just given us so much. It was so powerful what you were saying. Funnily enough, this was before I knew I was doing the conversation with you this morning, because we had a little kerfuffle because we had messed up at our end. Before we had the conversation, I found myself standing in the kitchen going, communion, union, yes, menopause, coming into union with oneself and communion with life. And then there you were, using those words, union and communion with your beloved. Yeah. Do you know, I think this could be a great moment to bring our conversation to a close, Susanna.
Sure.
On the note of union and communion, your incredible sharing. Thank you for being so generously, open-heartedly revealing of your sexual journey, because there are so few stories like this. And I think it will be so powerful for people to hear the way you speak. And I want to acknowledge the what it's taken for you to get to that place with Yakov, and what it takes ongoingly. Because guess what? It turns out you're human after all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we go on, losing it and forgetting and then coming back.
Oh, absolutely. And yesterday was our 33rd wedding anniversary. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's, yeah,
Congratulations. That's fabulous.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Susanna, before we finish, where can people find, because they're going to want to find out more about you and your work. What you're doing is just incredible, invaluable. So where can people learn more about both, well, the movement medicine work, but your embodied listening work?
Yeah, 21gratitudes.com. Thank you for that question. 21, well, maybe you can put this up. Yeah.
Yes.
21gratitudes.com, and then go to courses, and then there's the embodied listening course there, which I made following the prompt from those annoying angels. But I'm very glad I've made it, and I will be doing more stuff in that realm. And then the Movement Medicine Study Hub is the way that people worldwide, you can come and be part of this ongoing adventure. Yeah.
And that Movement Medicine Study Hub is part of 21 Gratitudes. They'll find it there.
That's right.
Yeah, brilliant. Great. 21gratitudes.com.
Correct. And on there, they'll also find a link to the Movement Medicine Association, where all the incredible movement medicine teachers and facilitators we've trained are to be found, and they're worldwide. So you can, hopefully, there's somebody down the road from you, go and dance with them in the room, dance with us online. And we're bringing all this together into one website. So sorry, it's a bit confusing right now, but 21gratitudes.com, movementmedicineassociation.org, and schoolofmovementmedicine.com will cover it.
Brilliant.
There we go.
Thank you so much, Susanna. And thank you so much for our incredible conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. It's been, I've discovered new things through your embodied listening and how you've reflected and enjoyed this. And thank you so much for your work, and may it fly high.
Thank you very much. It's my utter pleasure. Thank you.
Wow. What a conversation. I felt so moved and touched, stirred, inspired listening to this conversation. There was something about the quality of communication between Susanna and Alexandra that I found so compelling to listen to, and it created such a lively, engaged, spontaneous, emergent, revelatory exchange. I would love to hear how it was for you, what spoke to you, what touched you, perhaps what you're taking away from this conversation. So please do let us know in the comments box below. We absolutely love hearing your responses and feedback. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to our channel and we'll notify you when more conversations like this are happening. We've got many more in the pipelines, which we're so excited to share with you. And if you don't want to wait, the good news is there are 7 conversations already available as part of our Wise Power Retreat series. You can access those for free right now if you go to wisepowerretreat.com. And if you want to learn more about Susanna and her incredible body of work, movement medicine, that she has created with her husband Yakov Darling Khan, we've left links to that below, as well as a link to learn more about her teachings on embodied listening, which are absolutely exquisite. I highly, highly recommend you check that out. And finally, if you want to dive a little bit deeper into menopause and discover the liberating power of menopause, you can find our book Wise Power at wisepowerbook.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again soon.